All right, we are back, and we're doing it again. What's up, Dana?
What's going on, man?
Not much. How you doing? Are you
Hey,
ready to
okay.
talk about all the things you're thankful for?
I haven't thought about it, but I didn't want to write it down because I
Shoot off the hip. That's what we're gonna do
that's
tonight. We're
that's
gonna
how I
shoot
roll,
off the
man.
hip. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're gonna do.
I don't
That's what we're
like
gonna do.
being the guy that's like,
Yeah,
not that
right.
there's anything
Yeah.
wrong with that, but
Hey, if you rehearse, that's fine. That's fine. So
nah, I
we're
like
back. We're back. Like it or not, we're back.
that.
A lot of people don't like it, but that's just too damn bad. So, what's up, people? Good to see you. We got Skydrill Walker in the house. What's up, man? Hey, I appreciate the comments on the video last week. Good to see you, man. Thanks for being here. All right, and that's it
Evening.
so
Thanks for
far.
joining.
So, yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about all the things we're thankful for, um, in general, since it is Thanksgiving week. We're not gonna kind of go off base or anything tonight. I think we're going to pretty much keep it to all positive stuff, all stuff we're thankful for, things that have gone on in our lives, and you know why we're blessed in so many ways. Because both Dan and I are very blessed in so many ways. So what I was thinking, Dano, is we would go every other.
So
So
that's
I was
fine, man.
thinking we each do 10. We kind of talk about it and we go from there. Yeah, I've been trying to teach my kids that it's really easy to come up with things to be thankful for. I hope I can come up with 10.
Oh, trust
So
me, you can.
we'll see how this goes, man.
have
So
have
let's,
a deep thought about
yeah,
things.
well, that's the thing. So, I was talking about with my wife, and it's like, we sponsor some kids in Africa. And I was telling my son the other day, I was like, he's complaining about going to school. It's like, well, this little girl that we sponsor just got to go to school because we help sponsor. We give her money every month, and she's ecstatic. And he's like, I wish I was her. Like, oh, gee, damn it, that
Typical
didn't
kid
work.
response,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work. So, all right, let's go with you first. What and it doesn't have to be any particular order. You can just it doesn't like have to be a list from least thankful to most thankful or anything like that. So, tell me the first thing you're thankful
Well, okay. I mean, I'm going to do a thing here where I save the best for
for.
last.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good.
so, because I think anyone that knows me would be obvious what I would start with, but I'm going to just, not that this is a ranking system, just
Right,
to be
right,
clear.
right.
So I don't know if you saw it the other day, the Browns football game after the game, Jameis
Jameis
Winston,
Winston, yeah, great guy. Yeah,
like
amazing
just
stuff.
what he was talking to a reporter, and he's like thanking God, thanking the Lord that he had the opportunity to play in the NFL in the snow. And he said these things. I'm like, now that guy's onto something. He's thankful for being able to play football in the snow. I mean,
Right.
amongst other things, but I just thought that was so neat. He's like
Yeah,
not complaining that he's tired and it's gonna be wet and muddy. No, no, he was so like happy. He's like, I'm getting to do what I love, but I get to play in the snow. Like I was like, that's really inspiring. Um, so I just think that thinking deep like that is neat. But I think the first thing I would say off the top of my head is like the God given ability to be humble is what I'm extremely grateful for, because if we're not humble, we miss out on virtually everything that God can and does and will give us. And we don't have the ability to lower ourselves to a place of where we should be with other people,
mhm,
meaning we don't have the ability to understand that we're no better than anyone else, uh, and we're also no worse. But being humble is where life gets good, because you're thinking, as the Bible says, you're thinking above others. You're thinking about others before yourself. So, because that's what being humble is, it's putting yourself last, essentially.
mhm.
And it turns out that's one of the most rewarding things there is. The ultimate gratification we get in life is truly selfless actions, like giving, like you just said,
Absolutely.
sponsoring a child in Africa, or holding the door open for somebody, or listening to somebody, or helping somebody in any capacity. That's the most meaningful thing that we can do in this life. So
Definitely. Good one, man. Really, really good. I'll go next. So I'm gonna say I am thankful um, for my ability, and this is a very learned ability over a lot of time because I used to be terrible about this. but the ability to kind of slow down when it comes to reaction.
Uh,
Comes
Patience.
well, I don't know if I want to call it patience, but because that's I have a 9 and 7 year old, so I don't have tons of patience. So,
Oh, that
um,
shit's killed. Yeah.
but it's the I've talked about this a lot, especially in the last week, where so many people are so emotional based on everything, and it's like as soon as somebody wrongs us, we're bam fire,
Right.
that kind of thing. Um, it's taken a lot of conviction and a lot of uh, radical outbursts in my past to learn that that's really not the way to go about things. So I would say I'm very thankful that I'm able to try to assess situations, no matter what they be, no matter good or bad. Better, I'm not perfect at it by any means, but better to know that I can have a um, calmer head when it comes to something that might be really good or really bad, especially the really bad, because we all want to react. We all want, you know, revenge. We all want to get even at times, and that's the flesh talking.
Indeed.
So,
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I'm very thankful for is that is still a process, but I'm getting better at it.
No, and yeah, that's great because I think really what you're acknowledging there is two things. Is two words would be discernment
Hmm.
and then perspective.
Right, right.
Because
Perspective. Yeah, absolutely.
flying off the handle of a what they would call a first world problem, because say something dumb, you drop the glass on the floor. I don't know.
Right.
Uh, Flying off the handle over that, you realize that's not a big deal. I'll sweep
Well,
up the glass
and you can
and
vouch for
throw it
me
away.
because I used to do that a lot. I used to be a super angry
I
person.
still have moments, man. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I'm not even here
Uh,
to
uh,
judge or hold that against you, because I even at work, if something doesn't work, I can just get mad.
sure.
But it's just having that awareness,
Yeah,
that the God-given awareness to say, hey, like you said, conviction, which is what that would be. Um,
absolutely.
so no, that's a good one. That's not something that I think a lot of people think about, actually.
No, no, and I really wish more people would think about it because, when you're on the internet, especially, I mean, it's just, I mean,
No one's
holy
ever flown
smokes.
off
Oh,
the
no one's ever
handle
flown off the handle. And
on the
hey,
internet. No one's
I've
ever
flown off the handle.
overreact, dude.
I've flown up the handle
That's
many times to many
no,
people,
no, just you. No,
and and
no.
I've never gone super far, but I know people that have gone far. But uh, yeah, I try not to do that as much. I try to have
Well,
an
it
educated response, if you will.
right, right, and sometimes the best educated response is
Is
no
no
response.
response.
I've come to realize that one more and more as time goes.
Subliminal messaging. Here we go.
Well, it's funny because the book of Proverbs talks about knowing when to not talk more
Yep.
than to talk,
Yep.
essentially. And there's more wisdom in knowing when to not respond or talk. And
Absolutely.
it's like,
Absolutely.
but that's also, at least for me, because I have a mouth at times, mouth of the South, I guess, uh, is I gotta say something, or I'm gonna say something. You shoot off at the mouth,
Mhm.
and more times than not, the best response is just you know
Yeah. And I will
get
say,
a staple gun
anybody
and shoot it.
anybody watching, feel free to put in the comments what you guys are thankful for. I'd love to hear
Yes,
those
that's a great idea.
responses. We got Julie in the house. Love the subject of gratitude, fellas. Yeah, it's not something that's common on YouTube.
No, it's usually what are your top 10 grievances at the
What do you
moment?
hate the most? Which
Yeah, what's
YouTuber
pissing
do
you
you hate
off
the
today?
most? Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Ugh.
All right, your turn.
Um, Man, because it's funny because like you start thinking about it, you're like, oh, I guess there is a lot of things.
Well, and it's funny because it's such little things at times too. You know.
Yeah. Um, I mom and dad watched Pastor Mark the other day, and I watched him at my house. We were watching him at the same time. Still watch him on occasion. And he was talking about gratitude, ironically enough. And he brought up a terrific point from a biblical standpoint too, like that. And I'm going to kind of deviate from where he was going, but he mentioned like forgiveness is part of gratitude. Um, and so, to be open and honest, I really struggle with forgiveness a lot.
Mhm.
And so what I'm thankful for is the God-given ability and perspective um, and moments that he gives us and the free will that he gives us to actually apply forgiveness to a person for said thing. So the ability to even forgive, right? To not hold something against your brother or sister. Um, because if no one forgave, can you imagine?
Right. Right.
Right. And so it's like that is part of gratitude. You're if you are really truly thankful for somebody, no matter even the people that treat you the worst, like because they're still made in the image of God, if you can forgive them, that's still showing great, gratitude towards God for that person even existing.
Mm.
Right. I mean, maybe that's getting deep. Well, it is getting deep, but um, the ability to forgive people is, God's clear. He's like, if you don't forgive, I will not forgive you.
Right.
Um, And it's like we always ask God, "Well, forgive us, Lord," over and over and over. But then
We don't do it.
Bob over here gave us the stink eye, and it's like, "Oh, we're mad at Bob for 8 years."
Right.
It's like, man, we have no we have no justification in our nonsense and our lack of forgiveness. And I'm kind of calling myself out presently because I there's people I struggle with, man. I'll be honest. Um, but if mom and dad are watching, they know who I'm referring to. Um, but people that I would think would understand, and I drift in my thoughts because we all tend to think a person should behave how we think they should behave,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when they don't, or they're not doing what I would have done, um, we tend to get upset.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's hard. So that is such a tremendous gift that God gives us, the ability to forgive people. So it's like, man, we should be very thankful for that ability because if we didn't forgive, if no one forgave anybody, you can't. Like,
Absolutely.
can
Which
you
is
imagine?
very well. Yeah, we'd be in some. We'd be in a deep. And that man, I'll second you on that. That is hard to do. That is hard to forgive people. That's probably one of the hardest things out there, especially if somebody's really got you good.
Yeah.
And it's even if it's been like it could be something little. It's even hard when it's something little. But if it's something really big, I know a lot of people like Baker Mayfield. I don't know if you knew about us about Baker Mayfield. He's actually suing his dad because his dad stole all this money from him, like $12 million. His company did. It's like, how could you forgive that? That would be really, really,
Pretty low.
really difficult to do in a situation like that. So it's like God puts us in all these situations where it's like he wants us to forgive, and we have such a hard time with that. Yet he sent his only son down to forgive us and go through the worst possible death of all time. And then when you look at it like that, I think it makes it just a little bit easier. It's like, well, okay, if
Well,
God did that and all that went through, I think I can forgive Tom for cutting in front of me at the line at the grocery store. You know,
yeah, yeah. Well, because what you just said is because so what God does, like he commands these things of us, but he always sets the bar by doing them first, right? So what I mean by that is like you just said, what Christ did, where he's like, okay, God's like commands the people, hey, you need to forgive.
mhm.
But then he puts his money where his mouth is. Christ is literally on the cross, and
Right,
he asks,
right.
the Father to forgive the people that just crucified him. That's what he said. He didn't say, Father, strike them down, send a lightning bolt, or Father, may they rot in hell or die. Nope. The people that just crucified him, throwing stones at him, mocking him, spitting on him. The guy with the spear stabs him in the side. The
Yep,
guys that whipped him. Uh, he's like, Father, forgive these people.
yep.
Like literally still hanging on the cross, like in one of his last breaths. I mean, so yeah, to your point, like God sets that bar, and it's like, well, man, if he asked the Father to forgive people for doing that to him, yeah,
Yeah, it's
crap,
like
I have no leg to stand on.
there's
None
no
of it.
excuse. Yeah, there really is no excuse then, and
So
and it's
it's
like
you
that.
know,
That's kind of the thing,
yeah.
But the once again, the flesh gets in the way. The
Well, because
pride.
we think that we
We
are
have it worse than anybody, right?
right.
Well,
Yeah. Oh,
you don't know what Tom did to me.
yeah.
He,
In the history of the
you know,
world, where there's more people have died than are alive currently, and there's like 8 billion right now. There's been
right,
billions and billions and billions of people,
right.
and we're like, I got it the worst. What? Like,
And that I
you'll
think
never
that
understand this
takes
problem I had.
right. That
You know,
that's going to kind of tie into my next one, and that's that takes maturity and wisdom. And I'm thankful that I think I've gained wisdom quite a bit, in the last few years, especially,
I would
when
definitely second that.
yeah, I
I
try to
yeah.
I try to and I got to credit mom and dad for that because it's funny. I'll catch myself saying the same things as dad, literally
There's
to the
nothing
T.
wrong with that.
No, it's not. But it's just I'll say that and be like, oh my gosh, I'm dad.
But it
It's
turns
like,
out he
but
knows a
that's
thing
not
or
a bad
two,
thing. That's a
right?
yes, and
Yeah.
that's the point. Is that you gain that wisdom. And he always told me this when I was a teenager. He's like, one day you're going to be a father and you're going to be in this situation. And I bet you're going to probably do close to the same thing. And I've been in all those situations. I don't
Yeah.
have teenagers yet. And I was kind of a pain in the ass teenager. And
Yeah,
you
you
were
were.
kind of, you weren't as bad as me, but
No, I
I'm
wasn't.
sure I'll be in the same spot. But it's like, I get myself saying like the same phrases dad says at times. And like, you know, bitching about the traffic like that doesn't like all this stuff. But the point is, it's like that wisdom is exactly what I've gained.
Mhm.
That's so impactful. It's like I know what to do in situations now due to the wisdom I've gained through mom and dad's both teaching. You too, I've gained wisdom just through you're wiser than I am, and you're 3.5 years younger than me, and you've been through a lot too. I've been through a lot. I've had my struggles, but I will just credit you guys. I'll credit my wife too. My wife has given me a ton of wisdom when it comes to something, when it comes to everything, really. She's always been, since I moved out of the house and stuff, she's always been my biggest supporter and always built me up. And I've always had a lot of people to build me up, which is very helpful for the times when people try to tear you down. So, yeah, I'm very thankful that I have the wisdom to be able to try to raise my kids the way they need to be raised because it's a tough world. We have a much harder job than mom and dad did with all the crap going on, all the stuff, movies about Satan, thinking he's a good guy, and all this shit that goes on. So it's wisdom that I'm glad I gained, and I really hope continues to grow and continues to. And we have to give credit to God. It's good. This is a lot of what this show's about too. Got to give credit to God that too for opening up or taking down my arrogance, thinking I know everything, and opening up those doors and saying, "Okay, you don't know everything, jackass. You got to do things a certain way." So
Well, it turns out none of us do. Yeah,
right,
ironically enough.
right,
I,
right.
I
Let's.
I think and that's the thing with when you're a kid, you can think that your parents are picking on you, or that
Mhm.
all the other kids have it better, or this or that. But it does turn out that mom and dad, everything they did for a reason.
Right,
And
right.
it's like God says, like, you don't know what I'm doing now, but you
Hmm.
will. It's like, because at the
Hmm.
time we think it's so bad, we think, oh, we're being picked on or this or
Right,
that. But it's like, nah, man, these are the people that really care, and they're telling you how the real world is, and they're
right,
telling you how real life is. And it's like, yeah, no one wants to hear that at the time, but down the road, you're like, oh, thank God they told me that. Thank God they spanked me. Thank God
right.
they
Yeah,
encouraged me. Thank God they did this or that. Like,
because you
yeah,
see how many people didn't get that, and that's why the world is the way it is. Because
of
there was
course.
way too many people that had the cool mom that buy the kids the keg when they're 15 and get drunk off their ass with them, and you see the harm of that. You
Yeah,
see that when a parent wants to be a friend to a kid instead of be a
right.
parent, your kid's gonna turn out to be an asshole. I'm sorry to tell you all that, but it
Well,
is
but they do
true
because
in
the
certain aspects because and don't get offended if I say something like that, people, because there are situations where maybe you're a little more friendly with your kids and it worked out. That's great. I'm just saying, in my experience, from what I've seen from past friends and people that I've known, every single parent that was a friend of their kid ended up being a total nut job. And it's
well,
like there was
and
no discipline and there was no anything, and the kid ran wild, and well, now he's an adult running wild. So
well, yeah, because and I think what you mean there by being a friend is no correction, no discipline. It's
right,
just
that's what I mean.
it's
That's what I mean.
it's
Yeah.
pure well, enablement, but it's trying to be like if your kid's 12, you're trying to be 12. If your kid's
Right.
18, you're trying to be 18, and
Yeah.
you be the cool mom or cool dad or whatever. And
Right. You're
what
buying them
happens is
weed and
those
buying them drink, all that
right,
stuff. Yeah.
right. Yeah, you're encouraging them in bad behaviors, basically. And
Right.
you're not only encouraging, but you're joining in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the problem is a lot of those people, they don't hear the word no. They don't get corrected until they're, for the first time, until they're, say, 21 or 30. Or, I mean, and that is very prevalent today, even in the millennial generation, which is what I am. And you are setting your child up for absolute failure
Failure.
that way.
Mhm.
And,
It's
and
gonna be
it's
hard for them.
also, and now I know it's hard nowadays financially, I understand, and not always, but in a lot of cases in the past, especially, if neither parent are there, um, as much as they should be, that can harm a child. And
Mm.
that's not all cases, so we're clear. But in a lot of cases, kids can build resentment if they were just raised essentially by somebody else.
Right. Right.
And I know, again, today that's hard with the cost of everything, and I get that. But I'm just saying that unless there's some major nurturing going on in that time that you do have, it can lead to iffy
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely.
Um,
Let's get to Julie's here. It's little things that try to really keep in mind: clean water, safe shelter, being able to see, hear, walk, hot showers on a cold day. Yeah, see, it's little things like that that we don't
Stuff you
even
don't even think of.
think about. We're sitting here
Yeah.
like, oh, I got to get up something really good. What's happening?
I need it to
I
be
mean,
deep, damn it.
yeah, you got, Pastor Mark used to say it: if you have a handful of change in your hand, you're richer than 90% of the
And
world.
yeah,
You
you are.
know,
That's a
and
fact.
that's a big thing. Gilster, what's up, man? Good to see you here, buddy. Thanks for dropping by. Dan, do you know what Matthew 6, 9 to 13 is,
Off the
man?
top of my head,
I'm
I do not.
sorry, man. I don't know what that is on top of my head, but dude, it's good to have you here. I appreciate the message you sent me on
If it's
Instagram,
from
brother,
the
man.
Bible, it's good. Let's put it that way.
Right, right. And it's New Testament,
So,
so there you
I
go.
love it.
So, all right, man, your turn.
All right, so here's a heavy one that we're getting deep again. And
Oh,
this is
Lord's
one that a lot of people would be like, "What?
Prayer.
No," but I'm like, "Yes." Oh, the Lord's Prayer.
There we
Thank
go.
you, Joey.
Thanks, Jay.
Yes. I don't have a lot of scripture memorized.
Me either.
Except John 14:6. That one I never forget. Do you know what that is?
No, I know what John 3:16 is.
Oh, well, sure. But okay, 14:6 is I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes
Oh
to the
yeah,
Father.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah.
It debunks
Yeah.
people like the Pope, where he says there's all these ways to heaven.
Right, right.
That's a good one to have on hand. But okay, so my next one would be would be suffering. I'm very
Mm,
grateful for suffering.
mm.
I'm just going to leave it at that. No, I'm kidding. Let me expand upon that.
That is too
Let's leave them
vague.
hanging. No, because without, and Apostle Paul is clear about this, that the different things, like with suffering, it leads to this and that, and building your
Yeah.
character and all this and that. If you don't suffer in life, then you cannot gain perspective in life. And it
Mm,
goes back to what you said earlier, where you're screaming at your child for almost nothing, when if you didn't have some suffering in your, maybe you had suffering in your life and you got that perspective, that's your child does that same thing, you're like, oh, that's okay, buddy.
right,
That difference.
right.
And that's exactly what it is, because suffering builds the character, like Apostle Paul says. And without the suffering, we don't have perspective. We don't understand what really matters and what doesn't, what's important, what's not. We don't understand what a big deal is or what's not a big deal. We don't understand what holds true value, like Book of Ecclesiastes would say. Richest man in the world says, oh, yeah, all this is meaningless.
Hmm.
uh, worldly stuff, that is,
Right.
riches, money. But without the suffering, we don't get that perspective, and we don't know what true hardship is. Like you said earlier, we can think, oh, I was told that I wasn't funny. Someone made fun of me, and now I'm my world is crashing down around me. Well, no, that's just someone giving you a critique,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, but if God doesn't withhold certain things from us, if you just get everything you ask for, and it's your will, make this work, make that work. It's like we don't know what can come down the road that's way worse than, say, what God withheld from us that we thought was so bad, if that makes sense. Um, oh, I'm suffering because God didn't give me this or that. It's like, well, no, like you could have had some major suffering down the road. Um, but suffering and hardship and speed bumps in the road, if you will, going through hard times, like for example, one of the best things I ever happened to me was our business failing in 2010
Yeah.
and going through bankruptcy
Yeah.
and losing my house, losing my car, losing everything. Um, because I learned accountability then. Not that mom and dad didn't teach us, but again, being taught something and then living something. Those
Yeah.
are
Right. Right.
so that completely blew. But now I was able to, God help me rebuild my credit. Now I have a nicer house.
Hmm.
I have a nice truck. I have a good job. It's like it wasn't the end of the world, but man, I'm glad it happened. It sucks in the time, but it develops gratitude also, which is I guess our whole point here.
Yeah.
But we need suffering to keep us humble. We need it to get perspective. We need it to get, like you said, wisdom, to get understanding, to get discernment, and to really just realize, hey, you're a speck in a really big universe, and you need to act like that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you need to have some hardship. We all do. So,
Absolutely. And you use the word that's my next one.
oh, good.
But before I get to that, man, suffering, dude, that one is great because most people would consider that a negative.
Mhm.
I know what you've gone through in your life. I'm your brother. I'm your older brother, so I know exactly all the things you've gone through. You've been through relationships that didn't go the way you want. You've been through loneliness. You've been through, as you said, failed businesses. But you've had so many positives too. But I don't think that you would actually. Um, Consider the positives as positive as they are if you didn't go through the suffering. I
Right,
think that's
right,
really made you who you are. And it's also brought you closer to God, which is the biggest thing because, like you said, Paul, he basically said, all right, bring on the suffering. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, that's basically how it was. And it's like, you know, that's very respectable that you say that because most people would look at that as a negative and be like, there's probably some people watching be like, Dan's crazy.
well, because we can take
But he's
a
not.
lot of stuff. There's a couple of types of suffering. One is our own stupidity,
Right.
because we make
Sure.
the bad choices. We
Sure.
we are disobedient to God. But the other is just circumstances of living in a fallen, sinful, dying world. And so it's like you can either look at yourself as a victim, or you use it as what God's using it for, is to build you, is to show you things, is to give you understanding, and open your eyes to things around you, and eventually be more appreciative of what's down the line. So
Right. Right.
kind of a
So
big deal.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. My next one is the word you said, and that's perspective.
Uh-huh.
And
That's a good one.
I'm going to use YouTube as the perspective because when I first started, I was, completely naive to it. Thought I was going to be a millionaire. I was like, this is easy. All I got to do is, how many people talk about toys? Well, hey, there's a lot actually. I didn't realize how many there was, but I've gained perspective on the whole thing when it comes to what I want it to be. And when I first started, I wanted to be this big, huge thing. Wanted to get all these subs, wanted to get all these views, and make money off it. But over time, it's like, well, you know, God revealed it to be so much more. I still love to talk about toys. That's what I do on all the videos. This show's obviously different, which is a good thing. And there's been other videos that I've made which are a good thing too. But now it's not really about the subs. It's not really about the views. Don't get me wrong. I like it when those happen, but that's not the main goal. The main
Yeah.
goal is to have conversations like this, to talk about the hobby that I've done basically my whole life, but to also I've been blessed to have been given a platform to where
Yeah.
I can talk about things that I probably couldn't talk about anywhere else. I can talk about God. I can talk about politics. I can talk about anything really that I want because guess what? That's the beauty of YouTube is that, you just because you have a channel that's really focused on toys, that doesn't mean that's all you got to talk about all the time. And that's really given me a perspective on where I want my channel to go. I'm not interested in having a million subs. I'm not interested in having a million views. I'm interested in having talks like this and being able to have a good show. And now I get to do it with my brother. So I mean that's just icing on the cake. So and I still get to talk about toys. So really for me, that's a great thing. And again, it's like the wisdom, it's a learned behavior. You have to go through some stuff and you have to go through good things, bad things to get you to that point to understand, okay, I finally see, it's like the tunnel and you see the light. I finally see and know where I want it to go and what I want it to be. It doesn't have to be this, just I want to focus on one thing. No, there's so many things to talk about in the world and so many things that um, everything relates back to God. So God's going to be a
Yeah.
huge part of this channel and a huge part of these conversations that Dan and I have. So just very blessed and very thankful that I've gained that perspective and able to do it with you, man.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. No, that's good. That's really good. That's, I think like you said, God is within everything. It's like you can sit there and take, the idea of a toy channel, and you just built it. What God, I assume, asked you to build it into you build it right up to Him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
I
because,
resisted for a while, but then eventually it's like, okay,
but,
I'll do it.
well, but we all do, man. But like that's seeing God in everything, because He is in everything, and so a lot of people kind of think things are separate. It's like God's separate from my political beliefs or separate from my hobby. It's like, no, 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 no.
Mhm.
He's the centerpiece of all of that. He's
Everything.
allowing these things in your life, or He leads you into these things in your life or whatever, to use it for His glory. It doesn't, because we want to think that it has to be something big and spectacular. Like, I need to baptize 1,000 people. Well, that's great, but no, you can use a toy channel. You can. I work at a
Yeah,
haunted
man.
house, and I use.
You use it
That's
there.
why I'm there, is for that. Like,
Right.
you can. I always say, we have no right to tell God how to do it, when to do it, who to do it through, where to do it,
No. No.
or what to do. He
No.
can use who He wants, when He wants, where He wants, how He
Where he
wants.
wants, how he wants.
That's up to
Exactly.
Him, not
Exactly.
us. And there's no small thing in life.
Well,
Like, your
and you
toy
gotta
channel isn't a small thing.
exactly.
It's, you
And
know,
you gotta listen.
so,
And you gotta listen and you gotta do it. It
yeah,
doesn't matter what anybody says. Doesn't matter the critics. Doesn't matter the opinions.
no,
The only really opinion that matters, that does
God's,
matter, is God's, because it's like, you know, he's used people throughout time in all these situations and all these ways that no one would have ever believed. And
correct.
it's his will. So we do his will.
Yeah. I mean, if He gets the glory through your YouTube channel that started as a toy channel, like, that's freaking epic. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, talk about an example of showing the possibilities with God.
Right.
We can say, we understand it infinite, but it's like, well, here's that, like, geez, through a toy channel, right?
Right. Right.
Even through at a farm or a haunted house, you're like, oh, that's an evil thing. It's like, I don't know, He's using me, and I've had more Christian conversations, biblical conversations out there than I
Right.
used at church.
Right.
So, I
Right.
mean, I'm just saying,
There you go.
that's
It's
why you
not us
never,
to argue about the place, the time, the date, the situation.
man, He leads us all
We
on
go.
a very
That's right.
direct path. Like, when the
That's
Bible
right.
says, like, He'll direct your steps. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
whether other Christians or non-Christians understand it is irrelevant.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's a good one, man. That's
Next
really
one.
good. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
next.
Ah, all right. So I'm gonna have a pattern here where I'm bringing up things that I'm grateful for because I know how good they are, but I'm struggling with them. um, so this is one that's kind of interesting. Is I'm grateful for the ability to overlook offense.
Hmm.
So,
A
meaning,
good one.
I am grateful to be able, because, again, these are all God-given things, of course, for the God-given ability to, no matter the person, no matter what comes out of their mouth, what they believe, what they do, what they don't do, what they say, what they don't say, how they treat me, good or bad, if I'm offended, I can overlook that, and I don't have to take it to heart, and I can still see them as someone made in the image of God, and see that they have just as much value as I do, and God loves them as much as He loves me, no matter what they say or how bad it is. And so I don't let
Yeah.
those offenses, say if someone mocks my faith, I don't, hopefully, let that change my view of their being a human being and their infinite value and made in the image of God. So, in other words, I do not dehumanize them because I
Right.
disagree with them.
Right.
And that, if you can do that, is, oh my gosh, what a gift, because you can go out and preach the gospel and treat anybody well. It doesn't matter who they are, what they say, what they do, what they're about. They can be the polar opposite of me or you or whoever.
Hmm.
And in that
Hmm.
moment, man, it doesn't matter. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
that doesn't change. God says love your neighbor. He also says love your enemies, meaning for Christians, the people that hate us. we still are to love them as much as we love each other. Uh, there's a verse in the Bible. It's like, what, I don't paraphrasing, like, oh, what big of a deal is it to you if you can love someone who loves you? Even I think it says even the pagans can do that. But the real test is loving someone that hates you.
Right.
That's
That's
someone
hard.
that gets it.
That's tough to do. Yep.
So that's, man,
Well,
again, I struggle with this, still am currently even. But when people say things that we wholeheartedly don't like, or we disagree with, or worse yet, they hurt us, they betray us, whatever, and we can just say, you know what? I still see the value that they have. I still see that they matter just as much as I do, and God loves them, and Jesus died for them just like me. And then also on top of that, the ability to say, well, you know what? I've probably offended people too.
sure. Sure.
so, so
Well, and it's
that's
that
you know,
whole love the person, hate the sin.
well, correct. Yeah,
You
you
know.
don't you don't. A person isn't determined. Their value isn't determined by their sins, because if it was, we'd all be in hell. Every one
Mhm,
of us. That's
mhm.
it. We're done. Our gooses are cooked.
Right. Right.
so,
No, you're right. You're right. Let me welcome in a couple more people that showed up. Brett, what's up, man? Hey, you knew I was on the live today. Brett got it. What's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. And Funtime Pal says, I just want to say I love this new show. Normally it's past my bedtime, but I watch it every week. Man, thank you. I appreciate
well,
that.
that's a humbling comment. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
thank you very
very
much. We appreciate
meaningful.
that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Definitely appreciate that. But no,
Super
you're
nice.
right. I mean, it is tough, especially this day and age where, if you put yourself out on social media of any kind, and that's really, it seems like it's more so there, like, okay, let's be honest here. Some of the stuff people say to you on social media, they would never dare say to you in your face, person to person, face to face.
99.9% of them.
That's not going to happen. So it's like, it takes that, not only the thick skin, but having the understanding of, you know, people are flawed. People are going to say stupid
We're
things.
all in the
We
same
all
boat
do
there,
it.
man.
We're all in the
Yeah.
same boat. We've all said, I know I've offended people. Believe me, I know. Dan knows he's offended people. We know. Um,
Almost
but
daily, probably. I don't know.
right, yeah,
Hopefully
just
not.
it's just your face, man. Your face. It
Yeah.
offends me.
I, I tried to be a New Orleans fan, a New Orleans Saints fan from the '70s when they were the sad sacks. They had the paper bags over their heads.
Right, right,
Tried to
yeah,
do that, but people get offended by
yeah.
that thing. So
Yeah, no, but that's a good one, man, because that takes I can't say I'm the as far along and advanced as you are because that takes a lot. That it takes a lot to be able to do that. And it's
it
something that's like, when man, when people do some of the things people do, man, you're just
it's
like,
hard, man. It's
what
hard.
the hell's wrong with you? Well, that's kind of what's wrong with you. What's in hell? That's what's wrong with you. Because you know, yeah, yeah, it's tough. It's
Yeah, it
tough.
can and it can happen to any of us. So.
Oh, Kenny, what's up, man? Good to see you. Good to see
Oh,
you, man.
can I just comment on Kenny's comment there? That
Yeah,
I, I'm not. I was going to add my num. We do 10, but I have number 11. I'm grateful for Kenny and being so kind as to say that,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
that, like, we as Christians, we shouldn't want that confirmation that we're doing something that people either like, or it helps them or whatever. But it's nice to get it, and that comment is
Yeah,
very kind, and that
because
is
let's
really
be honest, we've
uplifting.
gotten some hate for this show.
Yeah, but
So I mean,
it's nice to have that, to even take the time to type that out
yeah,
and thank us for
yeah.
that is like
Kenny's
really
always been
cool.
cool,
So
man.
thank
He
you.
was always on Yakin with Yukon. Same for Brett. Same for Gilster,
Oh,
Julie,
nice, nice.
Skydraw Walker. All these people were on Yakin with Yukon. So
Well,
it's
thank
good
you
to
all.
see
It's
all you
very
guys.
That's very kind. That helps. It always
Yeah.
helps. It does. So thank you. So, go ahead.
Uh,
Sorry.
I'm gonna go with a little easier one, but this is I always kind of thought I was put on this planet for that. So I am thankful to be a dad. Dad of a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, 9-year-old girl, 7-year-old boy. It's not an easy job, but
I have
man, it
never heard
is.
that it is. Yeah.
Your niece and nephew are one of a kind. You just talked to them a couple hours ago, and man, it can be very frustrating at times. There's times you know you kind of go back and what I said to you, be like, what the hell's wrong with you? you know but honestly, man, ever since I was of adult age, I always felt that God put me on this planet to be a dad because I saw what a great job our parents did with us, and I just knew that I would be good at it. People always told me I was good with kids. I worked in a daycare where I was with kids
Well, you
before.
wanted to be a teacher at one
I
point.
did want to be a teacher. Yeah, I want to be an elementary school teacher. Couldn't pay me to do that now.
That'd be a
But
tough gig, man. Tough
yeah,
gig.
but yeah, honestly, it's the best job in the world. I love my kids to death. There, uh, you see some of the stuff they do, and you're like, oops, I think they got that from me. So, but yeah, I mean, they're great kids. They're funny. They're exceedingly smart. Very very sweet kids. Have great personalities. More personality than I ever had when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was very quiet.
That they do.
Yeah, they must get it from my wife because it ain't me. uh, I wasn't always this bubbly, y'all. Um,
No, good
but
gravy.
but I was my dad. I remember I went on a trip with my dad one time when I was probably like 20, 21 to Missouri to see my aunt, and he'd always used to tell me, I'll use my real name, say, Chris, don't talk so much. Chris, you're talking too much. Shut up. And I wouldn't say a word to him the whole time. I
He's
was
like
just
mocking you, like, hey,
always quiet,
yeah.
always quiet. My kids don't know when to shut up. I mean, they come down here, they have dance parties, they love Michael Jackson, they love to dance. They're just very, very bubbly, energetic kids. So, I just am so very blessed and so very lucky to be their dad, and hopefully I'm doing a good job at it.
I think you are. Yeah.
Yeah, some days.
Hey, man, not an easy gig from what I hear.
It's
Uh,
not. It's not. But a
but
rewarding gig at that. So,
well, God says children are a heritage from Him. I mean, it's pretty
right.
much like,
Right.
aside from salvation itself, it's pretty much like
Well, you're
one of the
absolutely right
top
about, and
blessings.
when you understand that the Bible is a parent child relationship book, you
100%.
sure get more perspective on it because
Yeah.
there's so much foreshadowing in the Bible too. You look at some of the Old Testament and how there was geez, I can't remember. Is it Abraham? That was going to take his son up and he was going to sacrifice him, and God wanted to test his knowledge, and he was going to take him up to the mountain, and he was going to, somebody correct me if I'm wrong because I can't
He was,
remember.
yeah, so he was testing his faith,
Right, testing his faith. But
and
what
he
what it
was, yeah.
what it ended up being, it was foreshadowing to where God was going to sacrifice his son for us. So it's just really
Oh
cool
my,
how
I never even made that connection. Holy guacamole.
boom. So that's foreshadowing. That's foreshadowing in the Bible, telling us, and it starts from Genesis. Starts from Genesis. So you look at
Well,
the story.
well, and that makes sense because look how often Christ quotes the Old
Right,
Testament.
right,
Like,
right.
yeah, that makes
Because
sense.
Jesus
Okay.
is always the plan. There's never a point where God's going through, he's like in Exodus, hey guys, I've got this idea. No, it's not like that.
I know
He's
we're just
got this
winging it. Yeah.
the whole time. And there's somebody correct me on the name of the person. I think is it Abraham, somebody. But the way the story goes is that God, he's very faithful and he does everything God says. And so God tells him, okay, so you and your son take the donkey, go up to the mountain. Okay. So he's basically telling him like, you're going to sacrifice your son to show how much you worship me and how you love me. Well, he gets there, he ties his son up, he's got the knife, and God says, stop. He's like, you're even more greatly blessed now than before because I've seen your faith and I've seen how much faith and belief you have in me. Abraham set to sacrifice Isaac. See, I was right. How you like them apples?
Yeah.
Abraham,
Sacrifice Isaac. Yeah. Oh,
right.
mom just yelled
Yeah,
Isaac.
there you
Yeah.
go. I heard in the background.
Yes. No, see, no, you were right on Abraham. And I
So
thought you were right, but I
what
didn't
it,
want to say anything because I was like,
no, you're good.
it,
So what it ends
you
up
get the
being
brain
is it's
part.
foreshadowing because God is testing a human with the same type of situation that God is going to put into action later on. Honestly, don't feel bad. I didn't get that until my pastor did that sermon a few weeks ago.
Oh,
He's
all
sitting
right.
there doing it. I'm like,
No, that's just it. Like,
mind
yeah,
blown.
it's almost like it's a plan or something. It's almost like it's a design. Who knows?
And we got some comments here. Y'all are kicking it. We got people watching. I appreciate all you guys
People
watching.
like
So
gratitude. That's great.
gratitude's good. We like that. I wanted to say something after the junk this week, but was too mad to put thoughts together. I really love this. Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Not everybody liked that video, but I'm glad you did.
Well,
Doing a wonderful thing.
I don't even know if I watched that video of yours. I'm aware of it, but like I don't think you were. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't saying it's a sin. You were just
No, I
analyzing. You're
was
like,
not. I
can it
was
be, or is
saying
it, or
I
maybe you're essentially putting a question out there.
right. It's to
Like
pull the audience in. The whole
either
point of the
way,
video was that this can, if you're not careful, you know about this about me, Dan. Um, Toy collecting can be idle shit.
anything can be.
Anything can. This
Anything.
water bottle. If all I do is love this water bottle, it can be an idol. That was the whole point of the video. That was the whole
Yeah,
reasoning.
yeah, and
And the
you're
reason I did that is because I've gone through that. I've been so obsessed with toy collecting before that it was a problem. You know.
and plus it's a toy channel.
Oh, look how I connected the dots.
uh,
Hey, it's Zombie Hunter. What's up, Zombie? Good to see you, man.
oh no,
Good to see you.
hold on.
Let's
That
go
last
back
comment
to
you were on.
Kenny's. Yeah.
Sorry.
The whole doing one thing, the haunted house video blew my mind when you got to the part how God used it for it. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that, Kenny, is that I didn't really connect that in my mind because that's what caused my bankruptcy. Um, I didn't really connect that because that happened in 2000 early. It was in 2010, and then I had bankruptcy in early 2011. I didn't make the connection of what God did there with all of it for me personally until literally like
Oh, it's
8 or 9 months ago
it took a
when
long
I
time.
was prepping a seminar to speak out at the haunted house that I work at now. And I shared all that, and I realized how God, like I was in an industry for myself and my own desires, and it ended up being no, God puts me there to later on help people within that industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it just took a long time for me to get that. But once I did, I'm like, so
Well,
it
and the
made the
thing is
mission
too,
easier. Like now you know why you're there. So
yeah, and the thing is too, the whole point of the haunt, so there is some misconception on that haunt. The whole point of the haunt was we were trying to portray what would happen to you if you did these things. So each room was basically an act of sin or sin. It was basically an act of
yeah,
sin,
that's basically what
and
it
where you
was.
would go if that haunt. That was the whole reasoning behind the haunt. So
Yeah, there was definitely biblical theme
yeah,
and
there was
element to
biblical.
it
Yeah,
that
exactly.
I think probably zero people understood then. Either way.
Yeah, they
So
didn't
anyway,
really get the they really didn't
so
get it. All
yeah,
right,
but thank you.
your turn. Yep.
All right, and I'm sorry. What was the comment? The next one, I
Oh,
apologize. I didn't mean to cut that off.
Abraham said to sacrifice Isaac.
No, there was someone that said, "Hey guys." I didn't want to cut. I'm sorry
Zombie.
that I cut that off. Yeah,
Zombie
sorry
Hunter
about that. I
115.
didn't mean to cut that off.
No,
Hello.
you're good.
I apologize. So my next one, I'll read this real quick. Philippians 4:6 says, "Don't worry about anything, but in everything, through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." So it just kind of hit me as I was sitting here, kind of just thinking about that verse, and I wrote it down because it has to do with Thanksgiving. We're thanking God, but what I'm grateful for here is the fact that I can present my request to the maker of everything, a sinner, a wicked man that I am, that we all are, I guess, is still willing to listen to my requests and hear me and help me and lead me and guide me and forgive me and everything else that God does for me and everyone else. That's mind blowing to me. We don't
Absolutely.
deserve that.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't deserve that. Like the fact that he's willing to, yeah, I'll take your requests.
Right.
Like, oh, you pray for that? It's in my will. Okay, like, you got to be kidding me. Like, the human mind can't. I guess I haven't really thought of this before, to be honest. The human mind just can't fully comprehend that. We just can't, because it's just so beyond our understanding. I think, and just of why would God love us that much?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Obviously, Christ doing what he did, but to still take a sinner's request, and he even talks about how even the non-believers he still blesses them and gives them things in life.
Right.
So even the people
Right.
that have rejected him,
Right.
I mean, you think about that. You're like, boy, that's pretty humbling, as it should be.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
to
Well,
for God to even listen to us is
goes to
just,
show you that everybody has a chance. Everybody,
yeah, yeah,
there's too much of this God's forgot about me or God's thrown me to the side. If
right,
you're here and you're breathing and there's a chance for you to know him, you haven't been thrown by the side. You haven't been thrown by the wayside. He's not forgotten you. He hasn't left you. People like to blame God a lot of times for things that are absolutely not God's fault.
right,
One that I hear the most is, oh, I don't believe in God because of the church, the Catholic Church, the
right.
Islam Church, whatever church it might be. I'm not picking on any. I'm just giving an
Church hurt.
example. Church hurts exactly, and it's like to me that's like the worst thing is when somebody's been hurt that bad that they now have a lack of faith in God because of what human did. Let's not get it twisted. Humans invented religion, not God.
Well, and
You
oftentimes
know,
those people are completely misrepresenting God Himself, and the things that they hurt that
right?
person with aren't of God anyway.
Exactly.
But that
Exactly.
person that took offense to that, it's sad because they may not know that, and like, you feel for those types of people. I
Oh,
know people
absolutely.
like that,
Absolutely.
and it is sad, but that's why Christians have to have that awareness. Like, we can't be perfect, but we need to remember we're representatives of God,
Mhm.
and if we
Mhm.
stand on some kind of soapbox and just look down and trash on people and unfairly judge and just criticize and mock people, man, no one's going to listen to you,
Right.
and they
Right.
shouldn't. Quite
Right.
frankly, we've all done it, but
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Let's go to what Julie said here. What's mind blowing to me is that the king of the universe thought this world was incomplete without you, so he created you. Just
mhm,
shows how valuable we really are. Yeah, it's the greatest creation. It's like what I was talking about when I was talking about my kids. God values us more than anything else because
yeah,
he created us. It's like when you value your kids, you would do anything to protect them. It's the same exact thing. When I said the Bible's a story about parents and kids, that's exactly what it is.
yeah.
We're the children of God. Whether we believe in him or not, that doesn't change the fact. He wants you to come to him. He wants you to accept him, accept Jesus Christ, because that's the only way you're going to get to God. But it's like, you know, eh, you can mess up. You can mess up.
You're
We're
going
we're
to.
we're always going to mess up. And sometimes we mess up on purpose. Sometimes we do it on purpose
Right.
and we're like, but then you go back to it and you're like, man, I really got to change that. I really
Yeah.
got to work on changing that. And a lot of people. So Cliff Connectel goes around. You know who that is, Dan?
Me? Oh, no, no.
So
No.
Cliff Connectel goes around and he talks about the
Oh,
gospel
yeah, Cliff.
to.
Oh,
Yeah,
I never knew how to
I
pronounce
probably
his last
butchered
name.
his
Yeah, I
last
watch
name.
Cliff all
Sorry,
the time.
Cliff. Like he's watching this.
Sorry. Yeah, he goes to college campuses. Yeah.
Goes to college campuses and he talks about God to. I mean, he's going into the belly of the beast at college campuses. Let's be
Yes.
real.
The lion's den, if
Um,
you will.
but what he said, a lot of people get upset about, the unforgivable sin, like blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. And so a lot of people worry about that. And he's like, well, you know, the only reason you would ever need to be worried about that as an unforgivable sin is if you've like just completely shut God down. You say, no, never. It's never going to happen. And you're never going to be
Right.
there. And that sort of thing. And if there's what else he said that was interesting is like if there's even a trace of you, like a mustard seed of you that still is questioning it, you haven't been to that point yet. You haven't got to
Well,
that point. There's still hope for you. Is basically what I'm
right.
trying to say.
And because
Yeah.
all the unforgivable sin is, in layman's terms, is you're blaspheming the Holy Spirit, because if you reject Christ, you don't get the Holy Spirit.
Right.
We get the Holy Spirit when we accept Christ. And so if you reject Christ, you're blaspheming the Holy Spirit. You're
Mhm.
rejecting it, right?
Mhm.
And Christ is the John 14:6, the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through him. So we need him.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
and the other point to Julie's comment I would make is there's, well, 2 points. Is number one, I always tell people it's like, so God made humans, yes, but he only made a distinct, each of us is a distinct human. There's no replicas of us. I'm the only me ever. You're the only you ever. And that's for all people. Every human being is a distinct creation from him. And then he didn't make us because he needed us. He made us because he wanted us.
Right.
He wants these disgusting, gross sinners. I mean, that is. So that's,
Why? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So
Exactly.
sorry, I just had to
Yeah.
throw that in
No,
there. It's
you're
like,
good. You're good.
dang, okay.
So
Sorry, Lord,
we
for being a jerk.
let's address JT. JT's usually here, so good to see you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. I don't believe in any gods because there's no evidence that I find convincing. Um, so I think we probably gave one piece right there. You are evidence because you know God made you.
Well, right. And so, JT, what I would just say is like, and thanks for the comment, by the way.
Mhm.
What I would say is like, so if you say you saw a really nice leather chair sitting in the corner, right? I call this my chair analogy, and it's the most comfortable thing you've ever sat in. A man 40 years old, a man 150 pounds, a man 300 pounds, a woman 100 pounds, a woman 200 pounds. Anybody can sit in it and be comfortable. It's got
Mhm.
lumbar support. It's got great arm support. You know, it adjusts, goes up and down. You can rock in it. Built out of the finest leather and padding. If someone went up to you after you just tried that chair and they're like, yeah, no one designed that or built that, what would you say to them? If you told them the chair just appeared and it's got a design to it, but no one designed it, what would you say to them? You'd probably think, I don't know about that because it's got everything I need.
Right. Right.
If you look at our solar system, where's where the Earth is in relation to the sun, if we were any closer, we'd burn up. If we were further away, we would freeze
Mhm.
up.
It's perfect positioning. Right.
Right. And then
Right.
think about it this way too. Everything that we have, clothing, houses, every material to make electronics, every material out there, carpeting, everything comes from the earth.
Mhm.
Literally everything. And then our food literally comes from the earth. And it does it's there for us. It's a design. It's put there for us. And so,
Right.
but then we also have the knowledge of how to use these materials. Well, how do we use wood? How do we grow a peach tree? I mean, you name it, and it's all just this perfect design. So that's maybe something that I would.
Yeah.
I'm not here to convince you and or sway
No.
you.
No.
I'm
No.
just telling
No.
you
I
what.
think my question would be what evidence would you need? What would there be that you would consider good evidence to prove that there is a God? I think that would be my question because we've kind of given you what our evidence is, but I think it's a point where you would need to tell us what you think. What evidence do you need for that proof?
Yeah,
So
because
go ahead and get in
it.
the comments. Let us know.
Yeah, because it's hard to say that the burden of proof would be on us to prove God's existence. I think in this case, it's the burden of proof would be on people to say, where's the proof that God does not exist?
Right, right.
Because if you look at the human body too, your organs right now are operating on their
Without you
own.
even thinking about it,
Right, like you're digesting food maybe, or
you're
I
breathing.
mean, your brain is operating to create a thought. You're developing saliva in your mouth as you talk. I mean, you're
Mhm.
blinking to keep dust out of your eyes every so often. There's so many things going on, but we're not doing it. And so it's just this perfect machine that is doing your liver's doing what it's doing, your lungs are doing what they're doing, on and on and on. And it's like, well, it comes off as a design to me. So I'll leave you with
Absolutely.
that.
I would totally agree with that. I would totally agree
And
with that.
and every design needs a designer.
And Kenny's asking kind of same thing. What type of evidence would you need? I don't know what the evidence would be. If there's a God, that God would know. Okay. We were originally made better than what we are now, but it's in our inability to follow in faith what God says that gets it. Dude, that's a great point. You're
Adam and
absolutely right.
Eve, baby. That's
You
perfect. Yeah.
did. Oh man, the fall did it all.
The fall did it all.
The
Yeah.
fall did it all,
Because
and that's true
they were made
because
perfect. God said, "Do not eat of the fruit of this one
right,
tree."
right.
The one, because all sin is just being disobedient to God.
Uh,
And so when Adam and Eve did that, it set the bar for, or it set the everything in motion for all mankind. That's why they say you're born into sin.
yep, yep.
Um,
And Kenny's got another really good point here too. All who have tried to disprove God have failed. No one can do it because the fact of God is in charge and it cannot be disproved. There are so many
Phil
scientists,
Robertson,
philosophers. There you go.
The reason Phil Robertson became a Christian because he went on a mission out to disprove God, and that's actually what got him to believe in God. It was
Right, right,
his
right.
story is very interesting.
It's true. It's true. It's true. They go out it. They go at it, and there's so much proof that he does exist. They end up turning the other way, and that's happened
Yes,
countless times. Countless
yes,
times of people who are like, okay, it doesn't. I'm going to prove it, and they're in church in a
yeah,
year. Yeah.
yeah. No,
So,
that happens a lot. Yeah.
yep,
So
yep. All right. Whose turn is it?
I
I don't even
think
remember.
that you did one, didn't you? Did you do one?
You just did one, right?
I did one about presenting my request to God that He'll.
Yeah. Okay, my
Did
turn.
you do one after that?
No,
No. Okay.
we went on a
But
tangent.
well, no, well, not tangents. It's good. Uh, it's
Yeah.
great
There's
conversation.
some I
Probably the
there's
most.
some I gotta get in here that I'm gonna do, and I really thought this was gonna. I thought we were gonna do this, and they're gonna have like half an hour left over. We've done like three each, and we've already been on for an hour, so I can't believe it.
Oh well, as they
Yeah.
say. But
So I'm gonna.
I think people are getting something out of it, including
Oh,
me.
I agree. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Y'all are lighting up the comments, which is great. I
That's
appreciate
great.
it.
That's fantastic.
So my next one is my wife. My wife is absolutely incredible. I love my wife, and um, you know, when I met my wife, I was in a very dark place. I had just gone, not just gone through. I was about, I don't remember how long removed from a divorce, and I
It
told her
wasn't.
that
No, it was just. It was pretty recent.
6 months,
Yeah.
about 6 months.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Not that it mattered.
So I met her. Met her online. Met her on Christian Mingle. Who remembers Christian Mingle? Come on.
I do.
Met her on Christian Mingle, and I'll tell you what, there was a lot of girls on there who were not really fitting the Christian Mingle type of person you would think on Christian
Were
Mingle.
you? How about that?
Well, I tried to be. But I remember reading her profile, and she wrote something to the effect of she was looking for an intentional relationship. I always remember that, where it wasn't something where she just wanted to date people and have a good time, something like that. She was actually looking
On Christian
for
Mingle.
right, yeah, exactly.
You got the wrong website.
Oh, jeez. I said Christian Mingle, not Christian Dingle. Um,
Sorry. I mean,
but the point was, she wrote that, and I was like, wow, I've never heard somebody talk like that. And so I messaged her, and we talked for we talked on the phone for like a week before we met because I lived at the time in Arvada, Colorado, and she lived in Colorado Springs. So we always had to meet halfway in Castle Rock, Colorado. That was kind of the meeting point. And we dated for a couple of weeks, and that was it. Had me sewn up. But I had never met somebody who would kind of like talk the way she talked and gone about things. She was very secure in herself, and I was pretty broken, to be honest with you, from a 5 year marriage that had ended 6 months prior. And looking back on it, I probably wouldn't have gone about it, some things about it, the way I did. I don't know if I proposed 2.5 months into it, but I'm glad I did. And I always call her my rock. I always call her the best thing because she just really, there was no there was no like ulterior motive. There was just she, I knew she cared about me, and that was it. It wasn't anything else. My
that
previous
goes a long
relationship,
way, huh? When you know
right,
somebody actually
my
cares.
previous relationship, it was about her, me, then us. It wasn't about us and that's it. It was always about something else, family, whatever it would be that would cause fights or whatever it was. But we got married about a year, little over a year after we met. Be in December we'll be together 13 years. So she's just always been there, always continues to be there, help talk to me through a lot of hard times. She's a really good listener. She should be a psychiatrist or a counselor. And she just definitely the rock. And when you marry someone, you kind of want it to be this way, where it's like you all are on the same page, you got the same mindset, you got the same way of thinking. She's a huge believer. in God and very spirituals more so than me. I try to catch up with her, and she usually whips me. So it's one of those things. But I've learned a lot from her. I've learned a lot from her.
Not
I've
a
learned a lot from
contest. You got to remember.
yeah, not a contest. I've learned a lot from her. I've learned a lot from Dan. I've learned a lot from my parents. So, just very blessed to have someone in life that's so supportive and caring, and great mom. And I could go on about her forever, but yeah, very blessed to be in where I'm at now. So,
Very good.
yep.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Let's go to a couple more comments real quick. His existence really became more evident to me when I was pregnant. To think that my body is growing more veins and producing more blood to supply a baby, more organs move to make room for the growth. Yeah, exactly. You think
Design.
about, yeah, it's all by design. If you think about it, a watermelon should not come out of, if you know what I mean.
Great analogy. It's like on The Office when Dwight is trying to prep Michael for the Jan having the baby and they use a watermelon. You
Yeah,
remember that episode?
yeah. And doesn't
And
Dwight
Dwight's
drop
the
it?
mother.
Right? Doesn't he
Yeah.
drop it?
Yeah, and then they eat the watermelon.
They eat the watermelon. Messed up show, man. Messed up show. Okay, so the burden of proof is on the thieves to prove that their God exists. They make the claim, I cannot prove a God doesn't exist.
Well, but that's the thing is both people are making a claim. See, because either you're going to claim that you believe he exists, or you're because any view is a claim. Um, if you're saying I don't think he does or he doesn't, that's still a claim. That's what I would say to that, because a lot of people like to use the question. I'll use this as an example of, well, if God created everything, then who created God? Well, the short answer is nobody, because God is referred to as a creator. He's also referred to as the beginning and the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything begins with him and everything ends with him.
Right.
And so he isn't created. He's the creator.
Yep.
And so I don't know if that helps. He's the beginning and the end. We start with him. He knows us before we're even created, and he gives us life in this life, and then we accept his son in Christ, and then in the next life we go back to our creator. It's kind of like a lot of atheists believe like the creator is essentially nothing, right? Like it's kind of just happened, Big Bang, if you will.
Yeah.
But then they believe when you die that nothing happens. So in a way, they're kind of going back to their creator if it started with nothing and then it ends with nothing. So it's
Right.
kind of just a stolen, twisted form of it. So that's just something that I think is interesting.
And Kenny took the words right out of my mouth here when he says, I understand what you're saying, but we walk by faith. Faith
Right.
is the thing that's
Right.
inside of us that we, that's what we need.
Very,
We
very,
don't need to
very
prove
good.
it to others. They
Yeah.
only need to walk in our faith and share what we have, faith to be true. God 100% proves it too. Yep. Dude.
Well, and that's so spot on. Really well said, Kenny. Because what I think people don't realize something is, and I learn this all the time, is we have faith when we don't even realize it, and not just saying in God, but like you have to have some kind of faith to get in a car and drive, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you're on the road with dozens or hundreds, or if you're on a bad highway, thousands of people, and maybe you're not thinking in the terms of, oh, I have faith that these people aren't going to crash into me. Sure, but you do have enough faith somewhere deep down to actually get in that car and go.
No one would dare drive through Dallas and Houston without a ton of faith. Believe me.
There you go.
No way, man. People are crazy.
Yeah, but faith is the meat of it. Very well said, Kenny. Like that's really beautifully said, because it and how do you explain faith? I mean, it's seeing. They say seeing is believing. That's not true. Believing is believing. We actually seen Abraham Lincoln? Well, no, none of us have, but we understand that there is evidence for his existence, just like the Bible is evidence for God. But then I think it's over 500 witnesses of the resurrection itself of Christ. I think that was the number. Not to mention the apostles. The apostles all died in gruesome, horrible ways, being beheaded, Peter's crucified upside down uh, for their faith,
Mhm.
for their faith. And so there's a lot of ways you can go, a lot to be said for it, but um, you know, so
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Your turn. Go for it. Well, let's do like maybe two more each.
yeah, that's fine.
We're not going to get to 10.
That's okay, man. God has a better plan.
That's
I'm
right.
all
That's
for it.
right.
Um,
Yes. Me to go to bed. That's what the plan is.
oh, that's what you're worried about. I see.
Yes.
Okay.
We're 10, 11 here.
um, no, I'm gonna give credit where due for even giving us the ability to even have a hand in existence and doing what we're doing now and everything in between is being grateful for mom and dad because had they not raised us the way they did, man, none of this happens. They were obedient to God and how they raised us. They had an amazing, and still do have an amazing balance of encouragement with discipline, um, and never, you know, tearing us down, never saying, "Oh, you're stupid." Just building us up with our schoolwork, with our trying, hey, you want to try a painting class? Well, okay, go ahead. Or, oh, you want to play football? Okay, we're going to get you what you need. Roller hockey, the guitar. um, Dude, I mean, it's endless and always putting a roof over our head, man. And we never missed one meal. There's not a lot of people that can say that. Dad worked countless hours that he didn't want to have to work plowing snow, working, putting his butt on the line, working in the middle of highways on the roads, watching people he worked with get run over.
Yeah.
Mom doing everything she could to help provide, uh, staying home with us. But then when our arthritis hit, still working at the lab with Jeff and Grandpa, or
Mhm.
giving piano lessons, babysitting, just freaking being completely selfish, going all in for their two children, you and
Yep.
I. I
Yep.
mean, the epitome of when God calls us to be selfless and humble. It's like they weren't playing, and they still aren't. Like they don't have reservations of to. There's no reservation to not do what's right. Whether disciplining us when we were kids, like, hey, you did this. You wait till your dad gets home. Well, that was scary as hell for me, but you know
Yeah, it
what?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Good
was.
learning lesson. I mean, even if it's just that thought of, oh, I don't want to get yelled at or a spanking,
Right.
it is what built us into, the men we are, because without having the parents we did, nothing else goes the way it does. Nothing else goes the way it does. It's like Christ is the foundation, but they're the dang framework and everything else, for
Yeah.
for building us. Like, um, so it's like I could go on and on and on, but like just and always just like complimenting us and building us up and telling other people that they're proud of us,
Mhm.
and you know having so many people come up to them and complimenting you and I, Bill,
Yeah.
like, but that's not because of you and I, that's because of them.
Right.
And but showing us what to do, what not to do. Dad showing us what real masculinity is. The trait toxic masculinity is made up, it's fake, but teaching you how to be an actual
Oh
man,
yeah. Oh yeah.
and hard work. Oh, you said you're going to do something, you follow through with that.
Yeah.
Don't lie to people. You hold the door open for people. You have manners. You
Yeah.
say thank you. I mean, the list goes a mile long.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
20 million miles long. So, I know that they're watching this and
That's the
probably
only
get
reason you said that is because you know they're watching.
no, because it's the damn truth and it needs to be
No,
said.
I totally play it. Absolutely.
And
Well, and
I will say this too. Not that it's a comparison or that one person's better than the next, but of all the people I know, um, at least in my personal life or here, I mean, I think mom and dad uh, understood it just the best. Like
I
I
totally
think
agree. I
they
totally agree.
just got it,
You
and it's
look at
like
you look at other people, you look at people that we knew growing up, you look at people that they were friends with and stuff, and it's like there was always something like off there, and
yeah,
it's true to this day, where they're not as tight knit of a group as like we are, right? And that's
correct.
obviously product of mom and dad and the great job that they've done with us our whole lives. And And it still goes to this day. Dad texts me all the time and tells me how proud of he is of me. And my mom always tells me when I talk to her too how she is of me. Tells me I'm a good dad. Tells me I'm a good husband. Tells me I'm doing all these things. And it's like, I'm 44 years old and I still got my mom and dad telling me how proud they are of me, and that's big, man. Because uh, there's a lot of people that won't do that. There's a lot of people that will sit there and say, well, he's grown, he's gonna do his thing, and you know
You
good
know
luck to
why?
him. Good luck
You
to
know why?
him. So,
Because they talk about that a lot still, and Dad always says he's said this so many times, especially in the last few years. Once a parent, always a parent.
mhm. Yeah,
Oh, you're 18. Okay, you're on your own. Like they don't believe in that at all. Like
yeah,
they're gonna be our parents and
right, right.
live as such until their last breath. And it's like that's exactly what God wants you to do.
Yeah, and
You
it's
know,
like you said, like the hold the door open and stuff. I do that like it's a bodily function. I just
don't
it's
even
just
think about it.
I don't even think about it. If I see somebody coming, I hold the door open, and you know the next time I'll get the door slammed in my face, and I'm like,
Well, it's
you
because like
know,
what the Bible says is like if you train up your child in the way they should go, um, it's something like they won't depart from it, right?
right, right,
Uh,
right.
in that context, I think like just well, godly teachings, of course, but
Mhm.
just general good teachings, like everything that they've taught us, man, I haven't. It's just
Yeah,
ingrained,
yeah. Well, it's
and
like what
we
I said
don't
with the
strip it
wisdom
off.
thing earlier. It's like all the wisdom that I've gained came from there.
Yes,
And we screwed up. I screwed up a lot when I was a kid. You screwed up, but they never kicked us out. There's probably times Dad
disown
wa
you. Get
There's
out.
probably times Dad
I
wanted.
have no
Yeah,
son.
right. But they never did. They always stuck by us, and we're not perfect family. We've had problems. There's been things going on. We're not perfect. We don't want to sound like we're perfect because we're not. But the thing is, they always kept the foundation. They always kept it going. And even now, when I'm a couple states over, we still have a great relationship, and we always will because we're willing to. I've found it necessary to always keep you guys in the loop, to always keep you guys involved because you deserve that. You're owed that. I know I'm not all there all the time, but you know, thank God for modern technology where I can still see you, I can still talk to you, and I can still have you see the kids and have them open their gifts in front of you and all that stuff. So thank the Lord for that we have that. So, but
Yeah,
when you have a good firm foundation, uh, this is what you get. You get people that have respect. You get people that are willing to do things for others. You get people that are willing to put their necks on the line on YouTube to talk about God to people, even though they might get trashed. I'm not patting my own back. I'm just spitting facts, y'all. So it's like, that's a product of our parents and what a great job they've done and the great job they continue to do. And they always will. So
yeah.
absolutely great
Amen
one,
to
man.
that.
Great one, man. Yep. Let's see. What am I gonna do next here? We'll do a little bit of a two-parter. So I'm gonna be totally materialistic right now. I am thankful for all this crap behind me because honestly, when I was a kid, and I say this a lot, and y'all are gonna be, oh, yeah, always doing this. When I was a kid, toys were a big thing to me. They were a huge thing to me. I would even when I was having problems, in school or whatever it was, I always had my toys, and my toys were kind of my little escape from any struggles I was going through or just having a good time or whatever it was. And I remember my Ghostbusters, staring at them, being enthralled with them, my Transformers. As you guys know, for me saying a million times, my parents gave me this Megatron, which is still like the greatest toy ever.
Well, they
Still
did.
got
I
it
didn't know
framed.
about that.
Shut up. Still got it framed. Still got it here. And they've just always just hit me in a spot that's hard to explain. I think a lot of you toy collectors probably know what I'm talking about, but to be able to be an adult and to get the stuff I had as a kid and to get stuff that's more updated that looks the way I wish it did when I was a kid is really cool. And then, my son, my daughter too a little bit, but more my son. I see the way he looks at these things and it's like, oh my gosh, he's a little Yukon Phil. Look at that. And it's like, it's cool. It's
There's two
really
of
cool.
them.
Yeah, there's two of them. God, the world will never be a better place. Um, but it's cool to see that, my son now kind of has the same outlook with it. that I did when I was his age and that sort of thing. So that's a cool thing. I will also put in my job because that's how I get my toys, and that's the only reason for the job. So no,
Fair.
I'm thankful
The
that
only
on it.
reason.
All seriousness, I'm thankful to have a good job that is a product of who you know. It's a little bit of a product of talent, but when you keep good relationships with people, you can go further, and people know you and know the work you do. It helps because that was my situation. So very thankful to have a good job where I can support the family and just be able to do what we do. So there you go.
Yeah, very good.
Let's give me one sec. There's a lot of
No, go
comments.
for it. Go for
This is unusual for this show.
it. Actual comments?
Yeah. Okay. So to be fair, it's called faith because it's not fact. I don't know if that's true.
Well, or maybe not such proven as fact, right? Like,
True. Yeah.
if there's plenty of things throughout history that we know to be true, maybe say because of books, but we've never seen them. But we still will openly display them as facts, such as like, did any of us see the Civil War?
Right.
No, but there's
Right.
history books. So it's human beings can accept certain books and accept that, oh, things are true even though they haven't seen them with their own eyes, but then they can't accept other ones.
Mm.
That's where you have to think on it in the context of bridging that gap. Uh, you know, it's a combination. I mean, it's because the Bible even says something like faith without works is dead, meaning like I can claim to believe in God and this and that, but if I don't actually act, if
Right.
I have faith in God and I believe in God, but I don't love my neighbor when he says to love your neighbor, I still need to have an action with that,
Mm.
and so there's both elements to it. Because if faith without works is dead, okay, so say I do my work, I do a good work, I do something kind for somebody. Yeah, they witnessed me doing something kind, but the Bible also says that people will witness, they will see God through your good deeds. It's the action where they see God because of that. You're doing His will, you're doing what He asked you to do. That
Yep.
kind gesture to somebody else,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
from God.
Right.
That doesn't mean you see Him physically, but that you're seeing His character through that person of what you just did. And I don't know if that helps,
Yeah.
but yeah, exactly. That's a good comment. I cannot see air or prove it, but I have faith that it's there. That's a great example. One more example I would say is, who can see thoughts? Can you see your own thoughts? But you
No.
have them. You
No.
haven't seen your own brain unless you've had an X-ray. God forbid you've had an X-ray on your head. But
Right.
there is a certain element of faith there.
Yep. Yep. You can't look at it this way. Your guardian angels gifted them toys for you to find them. Hey,
Yeah,
maybe. All right. Let's do one more each, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right.
So
Well,
this is your big one. So
yeah. This is a big one. I am thankful for vanilla ice cream. No, I'm kidding. That's not it. That's a joke.
that was seriously lame.
That was bad. Something really dumb. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like all that for
Hey,
that?
but
No.
still, not everybody has vanilla ice cream, so you
Well, I'm
can be
still
thankful for
thankful
that.
for it, I guess,
Mhm.
even though I don't eat it. But when I did eat it, I was very grateful that it was causing massive inflammation in my body. But anyway, that's another topic. So obviously, the last one would be the biggest of the big would be salvation in Jesus Christ. Like because without Him, without salvation, without God, obviously, as it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, nothing else matters, and
Right.
it doesn't. The world does not matter. We do not matter. The things of this world do not matter. Cars, uh, houses, money, all the ecstasies of life, what do you want to call them? Nothing matters without God.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at his
No,
comment.
oh, I wish I had thought of Vanilla Ice actually. Yeah, Ninja Turtles too. Going, oh man, that song. It was so bad, it was good.
Sorry, I wasn't. No way
But
was
for
I.
1992, I think that came out. That was
Yeah.
just totally
Peak.
perfect. But But without God, everything is essentially, in my view, meaningless. And so, without God, there is no purpose. Without purpose, their life is just kind of empty. Well, it is
Yeah,
empty.
that is.
It's the divine purpose that He gives us to give us a distinct purpose through each person. My purpose is different than yours. Sure, my purpose includes you to some extent, but I still have my own purpose that God has given me,
Right.
for a very specific time, in a very specific place, with very specific people. It's just an immaculate, perfect design, and God humbled Himself in the sense of coming to earth, Jesus Christ coming to earth, and dying with no sin to cover my sins is, and the perfect act of humbleness, the truest act of being completely humble. The man without no sin died for every last human being, past, present, and future, who was completely encased in sin.
Hmm.
And He suffered and endured the most gruesome and brutal death that you ever could. That none of us could ever experience that kind of suffering, that kind of pain, um, and that kind of rejection. To be turned over to to a mob essentially for committing no sin, and then crucified
Yeah.
and massacred for it, is just unfathomable.
Right.
But then to prove His divinity and rise from the grave 3 days later, and through the resurrection, and giving us everlasting life in the next, because this life is truly the blink of an eye, and the next life is eternity, which is infinite. Um, how do you even respond to all that?
Yeah.
Because we're so plagued with sin, plagued with our own delusions and our own selfish desires and our own wants and our own, um, you know, any sin, our own anger, our own wants and desires. It's unfathomable that God would do that for us, but He did it simply because He loved us and He wanted us. It's not because we earned it, and we never can earn it, and we never will earn it.
Right.
Um, and as Christ said on the cross, it is finished. And so I don't even have to do anything except put my faith in Him, and that's it. It's not my deeds that gets me to Him. It's not my good works. It's nothing I have to do, because I could never do enough to get to Him, and
Yeah.
I cannot atone for my own sins. So yeah, I could go on, but yeah, there you go.
I mean, what else am I supposed to say? Like,
Oh,
jeez, dude.
yeah.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I would say that's my last one too, without a shadow of doubt. I will also say that to kind of go back to all the people that I mentioned, you, mom and dad, my wife, my kids, my in-laws, my entire family. Um,
Yeah, of course.
they've all had a hand in helping me get to where I want to be in my faith, whether it be um, positive or negative, because there are positives and negatives with that to help you get to where you want to be in your faith and mold you in that way. Um, but I'm just thankful and grateful that he died for our sins. That everything you know everything that there is, God wants for us. A lot of people ask, why would a loving God do this? Why would a loving God do that? And it's like that's not really the point. That's sin. That's there's free will involved. There's a lot of things involved, but the point of the matter is that God loves us unconditionally, no matter what. Does that mean He doesn't discipline us? No, He is like a normal parent should be. If you love your kid, you discipline them and you show them the right way and you correct them. So, I would say I'm thankful for the correction. I'm thankful that, when I screw up, God lets me know about it. When I'm doing something that's hard, I'll admit this show at times is hard. It's hard when see a lot of unlikes. It's hard when you get criticism. It's hard when you hear things you don't want to, and people don't see things the way that you do, that you're trying to convey to them, and you think that they think that you're doing something else. So I always say that if your feet are in the fire, you're doing something right. if God is testing you and putting you in these situations and putting you out here to where you're now uh, vulnerable and you're now a bit of a target, you're doing something right. And it's a product of, are you going to let that tear you down? Or are you going to let it fire you up to continue and even go harder and go fuller? Well, I can speak for Dan. We will go harder and fuller. We will not stop. We will not do any of that because we both believe in what we're saying. We both believe in what we're doing, and I'm thankful that Dan is on board with this, and I knew he would be the minute I asked him. So I I love having these kinds of conversations with him because um, this is not something Dan and I have done before. To be honest with you, Dan and I have never had deep conversations, especially in front of people, other people. You know, Dan and I usually talk about Seinfeld or talk about haunted houses or, when we played softball together, we talk about softball. We talk about that stuff. We didn't really, have the deeper godly conversations, and that's something we discussed a while back. Is that we wanted to do that more. So
Yeah.
I'm very thankful that we're able to do that and, you know, have that respect. But yeah, there's so many more things we could talk about, so many more things we could go on about, but an hour and a half is probably our limit here. So I'm also thankful for all you guys. Really good show tonight. A lot of
Yeah,
people
ditto on
watched.
that. Yeah.
A lot of good comments. Appreciate all your comments. Gilster, Kenny, Julie. Who else did we have here? JT. We had Brett. Good to see you, Brett. We had Zombie Hunter. Good to see a Zombie Hunter. We had Jedi Continue. We had Brett, and then we had Skydraw Walker. So good to see all you, and of course Mom and Dad. I know Mom and Dad are here.
Oh yeah.
So good for. It's really good that all you guys showed up and that you participated because that's kind of what we want. So thank you for that. We'll come back next week with another show. Don't know what it's about yet, but we will be here. And
What? Can I make one
yeah,
more quick point, and
yeah,
then
go for it.
we
Go
can.
for it.
So, and I can't use this to prove God's existence for anybody else, but when we really decide to follow Christ, the ultimate proof of God is that the change that happens within us as individuals, and meaning our behavior, our words, our thoughts, our actions, how we perceive things, how we treat other people. That's the big one. How we view other people, and how our what becomes important in our life that wasn't important before, or what was not important in our life becomes important, and how your whole world and your mind and your heart completely change.
Mhm, mhm.
And I
Yep.
think that's the ultimate proof of God, but I certainly can't show that to somebody. I mean, I guess if you know me, from when I was born to now, and talking with me every day, to see that change. But that's the ultimate proof for me, is how I could be one way, and then by no other reason but God working through, as you just said, Yukon, through other people, the relationships we have, our parents, our siblings, our friends, our family, people at church, or whoever, to work through us, and change our hearts and minds and souls on things, and make us no longer want to do things that we shouldn't have been doing.
Mhm.
I think that's the ultimate proof of God, but that's
Absolutely,
something you
man.
have to experience for yourself, I will say. So
Yep.
that's
Absolutely.
all I got.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and we'll see you next week.
Take care. Thank
Bye.
you.